All right, back for another episode here again today. We have a fantastic guest with us, Ben Taylor, who is the CEO and co-founder of SoftLedger. He'll be able to provide you guys with a lot of value today. So appreciate you being here, Ben. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate having me on. I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know you, would you mind giving them a little bit of background and context about what SoftLedger is, and then also, your background on how you started the company and why you're providing the solution that you are?
Sure. I started SoftLedger like 10 and a half years ago. I come from an accounting background, so kind of born out of frustration with accounting software, using it as my job. And I just figured there had to be a better way. And, our rallying cry is accountants deserve better software. And so at that time, me and my longtime friend, Jeff Lastrega, he actually knows how to code and build a software product, which is, obviously a very critical component to this. And so we started nights and weekends, just, building. And then February of 2017, that's when we went full time. And we've been kind of steadily growing the company ever since. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys provide a general ledger, and we use you guys. And the reason for that is, family offices often have complex entity structures. There's kind of a waterfall or subsidiaries, there's trusts, there's going to be a lot of components that you're going to have to be able to do the accounting across. And then, so I think was that the original premise before you added the crypto component?
Yeah. That really, it's kind of a happy coincidence that SoftLedger is, crypto ledger. Really initially that was just general ledger. We started as a general ledger, no crypto, just provide a good system for companies in the background. QuickBooks, for whom like the next step up is overkill, like a NetSuite or an Intact is too much. You just kind of want that. You just multi-entity is the pain, and you've outgrown QuickBooks because of that. That's where we sit. And then Jeff and I got interested in crypto, and then realized, oh my God, these ICOs are going to be viewed as mini unregistered securities offerings, like coming from an accounting background. This is going to be a problem. And usually when you IPO, you have a full legal department, full accounting department, and these companies did not. So that led us to build some functionality specifically to crypto. And now that, represents a pretty big chunk of our customer base is companies dealing with crypto assets.
So, you guys do the accounting on that side, and then I assume you partner with CPAs, and they'll file the taxes and do all of that. So walk me through a scenario. A family comes to you, like, what's the demographic of person that you think would most benefit from SoftLedger?
Sure. So obviously we work with, great partners like Digital Family Office to provide to help end clients get, manage all this properly. But then also from a direct standpoint, I'll give an example. Last month we had a family office sign up that has built their wealth off of a large operating business that they sold, and now it's not this heavily actively managed day-to-day investments, but there's that aspect to it. There's a couple generations involved, and it's just when they came to us, they're managing it on a few different systems. They're disparate. It's often it is just if it's not all one system, it's just there's some manual high friction process that's happening in between, and you get everything together and consolidated, and all of a sudden something changed, or you missed something you realized in one of the entities, and you have to update that and then recast everything. And it's just really the upshot of all that is it just takes too long for the management, the stakeholders in the organization to see how they're doing financially. And then you start making decisions off of incomplete or inaccurate data, and it just, mothballs into this big problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have a human component and there's double ledger entry, there's always the opportunity for somebody to fat finger something.
Yeah.
Right. You guys have a lot of API integrations in order to be able to drive, some of that data into your system. Is that true?
That's right. Yes. The whole platform is programmable via API. And so really the automation potential that comes up is pretty, there's a lot of opportunity there, especially with some of the new AI coding tools. I think that's really where this is headed, is if your system is fully API programmable, that's where a lot of the benefit lies. We've built in some which you might have used as some AI functionality into the system itself, which is great. I think the more of the opportunity, though, is just in being able to use APIs to really push and pull data as needed for your own organization-specific cases.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of efficiencies that are created there. And again, double ledger entry, not fun for anybody.
Yeah.
And you guys have all the decimal places to deal with crypto.
Sure. That is definitely not a given.
No, there's not a whole lot of softwares that we found that have that capability and can really, do that at scale. And I think that'll become more dominant as people do price things in these digital assets. As it sits today, you might have USDC or Tether that have, however many decimal points of change you have. But, people hold large amounts of Bitcoin, and the dollar value of that's pretty substantial. You might be holding fractional amounts of Bitcoin at different places, and that value's got to be reconciled with what the current value of the dollar is, and if it's being traded or used as collateral in some way. A lot of the stuff that we're building through our wealth management platform benefits greatly from what you guys are providing.
Great. Yeah, that's exactly, the decimal precision, especially for large assets. And then if it's stable coins and you want to get to a fraction of a cent because it's, it's material at scale, that's good to hear.
Yeah. It'll be interesting on like streaming micropayments, if you're sending thousands of a penny, reconciling all of that. But the more payments, the more reconciliation.
It's true. Yeah. And the more you remove friction on things like cross-border payments, and then it's like, okay, now this is super cheap, and now we care about this, the next decimal point over.
100%. Well, so I mean, I'm sure that you guys I've seen your growth over the past 10 years. How many families are you guys working with now, and what's the business look like today? And maybe talk about that, and then where you want to take it over the next couple years.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. Hey, yeah. So yeah, we're probably working with, including direct plus partners, maybe let's say like 35, 40 families. And yeah, and that's grown a lot over the last year. And, through partners really helps to provide a complete solution there. And that really is like the future. The next couple of years is very partner focused, is, to provide a complete solution for family offices and other verticals where, we're very much focused on providing a great general ledger for accountants. It's very flexible, very API programmable, so you can automate, and then partnering with experts in particular verticals to round it out and provide a complete solution. So like I that's just more of this over the coming years is how we see us, our growth happening.
I think that's great. And I think you guys are going to be super successful. I think there's going to be a big boom with the adoption and utility of these protocols and assets. And people are going to be looking and scrambling for a solution, and you're going to be positioned very well to be able to capitalize on that. Anything, on the regulation, I don't know if you watch the space, a ton. You're probably more focused on the business. But anything in crypto that you're excited about and how your software is going to be able to work with it?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's over time, regulation helps. The biggest thing that it helps to me is it allows businesses to form, and they can have some certainty in how this is going to work. And then, in some ways if you look at stable coins, like if that just becomes, quicker rails for moving money, then how different is that to track than traditional money? And will it all ultimately converge? And we're just talking about decimal precision and everything else is kind of similar. Or are there other things where companies are really holding Bitcoin in their treasury and need to manage that and determine the gains and losses as they transact in different ways? And so it's been interesting to see what really will be require different systems and what won't, as regulation goes further and further. And I think tokenization of various assets is it's similarly, it'll be for some assets, it'll be the same, same systems can probably track it. But then for others, if all of a sudden assets that were less liquid become more liquid and start moving around, then those old systems and processes won't make as much sense. And it's not okay to say, oh, well, we'll do this manual thing to move, this real estate securitization vehicle from here to here. Oh, now it's, what was 10 transactions a month is 10,000 transactions. The systems are going to look different. So I think watching that unfold has been interesting. It's also, you have to kind of be pragmatic about what exists today and know that you can't build based on uncertain regulation and uncertain ongoing business models. Like, you don't know if some of these DeFi businesses that people go into
Gonna work.
just you could well, yeah. So
Security? Are they gonna go away? Are they available to operate in the US? I'm excited. I think we are gonna get clarity here in 2026. It may be later in the year. I don't know that they're gonna get it across the line here in Q1 with the midterms and the funding bill and some of the other stuff that is right here on the horizon. But if they did, I do think, to your point, it's gonna be significant adoption, and we'll get to see how it unfolds.
yeah, for sure. You guys, yeah. Go ahead. More working with partners like you and thinking through how to automate, but do it in a controlled way. I think like that's why a lot of these companies need help. Is you're embarking on these new business models, and yeah, you need some certainty to go with that.
Yeah, for sure. So just so people know, like, a lot of the people that are native crypto people, they look at the blockchain as the ledger. If you look at the government today, they're still asking you to keep your own books and records separate of the blockchain. So you guys feel actually a very good position as it sits today. Do you think that'll change over the long term? Do you think some of the accounting will be directly integrated to, the on-chain activity, and that'll reflect the truth instead of having to have a secondary set of books?
So I think it's a great question. We've thought about this a lot over the years. Is some of this is just like substance over form of like it's if it's in a blockchain based ledger, it's an external it's external data to the company, and maybe that's a better vehicle for tracking and making it visible. In a lot of cases it is, and being transparent. But there's always this need for what we have provided as a general ledger, which is like what represents your organization's financial structure at a point in time, or performance over a period of time. And that'll always be a different view than what's on a ledger, on the blockchain ledger. I'm optimistic that we'll get to a point where you can, like transactions, you could come directly off of a ledger. You don't have to do this crazy stuff we have to do to like get bank transactions or brokerage transactions in. Like that'll be more efficient, more available and open. And blockchains, I think, are a very key component to that, and like other related technologies. But yeah, there's always gonna be a need for that. Like, what's the financial position and performance for your organization? And that's just like a different view. That's always going to be it's always going to be internal. I think there's always going to be a general ledger separate from whatever is happening on the blockchain.
I think so too. I mean, banks are moving to private permissioned blockchains, right? But they're still going to have to do reconciliation and accounting and appropriate that to different like cost centers. There's just a little bit more complexity. And so you need something that probably sits as a tangential layer for all of those components. On that track, you mentioned AI a little bit earlier. What are you guys doing with that on the platform? How are you leveraging AI for your product?
Yeah, it's been yeah, it's been a crazy past couple of years. First internally, product development wise, we've just been able to move so much quicker, which has been really, really great. And customer service, we've been able to provide a higher level of customer service because we can provide this AI agent that responds to, it's about 80% of our tickets now as a result from that. So that's great. And then in the product, we've recently added some like bank categorization, AI suggestions. It'll suggest AI bank rules using AI as well. And then for AP, if you can have your vendors send an invoice to a certain email address, and the system will strip out the PDF document or the attachment, and then guess at the coding for the bill. Those are pretty cool. I would really say though that the most exciting things around what we see around AI is where our customers are like being proactive and using LLMs and just saying like you could take Claude Code and say, build me something that uploads, journal entries on a weekly basis to SoftLedger. And we're a little tinker. Yeah. And then you can say like, oh, well, actually I care about them in XYZ. I want to add this dimension in this one, and then they can maintain it. And we're like, there are cool product things for sure. But I think the biggest benefit is like the enablement of like our customers to like hyper customize their product, their tech stack for their specific needs. I think that's a trend we're going to see only ramp up this year.
I love that. If people want to reach out and have a conversation with you or your sales team about the product for their family office, or even, just a high net worth individual that has multiple entities or an allocation to crypto, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you guys?
Sure. You can always see, there's a lot of info on softledger.com. We have, a YouTube channel too that goes through a lot of our videos and everything. And then, yeah, feel free to email me directly, ben@softledger.com.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out. Any last thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And yeah, I guess accountants deserve better software. That's our, I like to repeat that as much as possible. That's why we started the company, and still true today. We're working on it.
Well, I agree. I think that there's a lot of problems that you guys solve in the market, and should continue to gain traction. So appreciate you being on. Thank you guys for joining and watching, and we'll see you on the next one.